Sirsi, India. 10 miles outside of the city, in the southwestern state of Karnataka, within the river Shalmala, is one of the country's most popular pilgrimage sites, Sahasra Linga. Hidden under these waters for most of the year lie stone sculptures known as Shiva Lingams. These sacred idols are representations of the god Shiva and are visible to thousands of pilgrims once a year at the festival of Mahashivaratri.
Mahashivaratri is a festival where Shiva is worshipped for his great nature. Mahashivaratri is usually held in the end of February or beginning of March. During that month, the water level of the Salmala river drops down so that all the Shivalingas are exposed.
Shiva's depicted as the Shiva Linga, as kind of a spherical column, the flaming pillar that is the cosmic axis of the universe. Every Shiva Linga that's in worship is set into a yoni. This is a special base, and it actually serves kind of a utility of function. It's a spout so that when you pour offerings over the surface of the linga, they wash over the sacred body. Images of the Shiva Linga are found throughout Southeast Asia, even in parts of East Asia. Sometimes images of Shiva as the lingam also made its way into China and into Japan.
The Shiva Lingam first appeared over 2,000 years ago, and there is still debate over what this shape was originally meant to symbolize. But ancient astronaut theorists suggest that the icon may represent an incredibly powerful technological device. Paris, France, 1900. At the Paris Congress of History of Religions, Swami Vivekananda, a scientist and monk credited with popularizing Hinduism in the West, gives a lecture addressing the meaning of the Shiva Lingam.
For centuries, Western scholars have assumed that the Shiva Linga has purely a sexual connotation. The cylinder is the male phallic symbol and the yoni is the complementary female symbol. Then in 1900, the Hindu scholar Swami Vivekananda came to Paris to deliver a major lecture about Hinduism and symbolism. During this lecture, he said that the Shiva Linga actually symbolizes the coming in or going out of the divine manifesting energy of Shiva.
It stands for energy, and it has often been misrepresented in the West that it is simply a phallic symbol of Shiva, which is not the case. It is obviously a pillar, because linga means a pillar.
Modern Hindu scholars have theorized that the Shiva Linga stone actually represents atomic energy. When we think about this idea of what atomic energy can do, how it can be used for good, but it can be extraordinarily destructive, this certainly pertains to the mythology of Shiva, who is chaotic energy, who is a force for incredible good, but also a force for incredible destruction.
Is it possible that this symbol of Shiva's power actually represents atomic energy? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest the proof can be found by examining this mysterious shape.
The cylindrical structure of the Shiva Linga is similar or almost identical to a modern-day nuclear reactor. And the groove that surrounds the base represents the structures built to dispose of the polluted water. In ancient times, and even today, Hindus pour water or milk on top of Shiva Linga as a ritual. Today, we pour water over the top of nuclear reactor to cool it. And interestingly, most Shiva temples are always found near water bodies, like rivers or lakes, just like nuclear power plants. So is it possible that Shiva Linga actually represents an ancient nuclear power plant?
In the story of Shiva and the Shiva Linga, we're obviously dealing with some kind of a universal or cosmic power that we didn't fully understand until the 20th century, with the discovery of nuclear power and nuclear fission. These discoveries that predate modern man are completely changing our conception of the ancient past and connecting us to the true history of humanity, all before the time of the flood.
1971. Eastern India. It was here, at the Sanskrit College in Calcutta, that Eric von Daniken met with Professor Dilip Kanjilal to study the Vedic Sanskrit, an ancient language used in religious Hindu texts.
Professor Dilip Kanjilal has gone through old Indian texts and made modern versions of it. Now it comes out in the old books. The so-called gods, they used flying machines to travel from heaven to earth.
According to the ancient Vedic texts of India, the gods descended from the sky in flying vehicles. They refer to those vehicles as Vimanas. There are very detailed descriptions what these Vimanas looked like, how they traveled from place to place, what was necessary in order to pilot them. All those things are described in ancient Hindu texts that are thousands of years old.
And for Eric, he naturally felt that these Vimanas were real nuts and bolts, aircraft, and of course he's saying these are the vehicles of the ancient astronauts.
When Eric first went to India, he explored a whole bunch of different sites, and he quickly came to the realization that India is a treasure trove for the ancient astronaut theory, because all over India we can find these magnificent temple towers that are referred to as stupas and also Vimanas. And so we have to ask ourselves, where did the form for a stupa come from?
Another great contribution of Eric is that he focused on India. Very few people had really studied the ancient Indian civilization, even though it is thousands of years old. And what he saw there were structures which were alleged to have been replicas of Vimanas.
So many Hindu temples in the Far East, they are representations in their architecture, what was going up in the sky. So the upper part of a Hindu temple often is seen as a flying object, as a Vimana.
And basically what we're being confronted with is the realization that these people built in stone objects which they seem to have seen in the sky.
When we look at the most ancient records we have coming out of the Vedic texts in India, there are clear descriptions of aerial battles taking place, Vimanas. So this really starts to raise the question about our own cycle of history. Is it completely linear? Or is it possible that we're just starting to rediscover ancient technology that did exist thousands of years ago?
Ancient texts all over the world talk about flying vehicles, people who could fly through the air, flying horses. But it was Eric who really put it together, that the gods weren't just flying around like Superman. They had to get into some kind of nuts and bolts craft, just like we do, and go somewhere. And this was the chariots of the gods.
Enoch tells us about the guardians of the sky who came down. He says they are called fallen angels, and they wanted to have sex with humans. And the offspring of it were giants. So there were sexual contacts between extraterrestrials and the humans.
What does this mean? Well, it's very simple. Eric von Daniken's interpretation was, we are nothing else but hybrids of an extraterrestrial race that jump-started our civilization thousands and thousands of years ago.
Varanasi, India, 500 miles southeast of Delhi. Located on the banks of the Ganges, Varanasi is one of the oldest cities on Earth, a city that, according to legend, was founded by the gods. Long known as a center of knowledge and learning, Varanasi was once home to an ancient physician by the name of Sahasra, who many historians credit with developing the art of surgery.
In ancient India, the early physician was a guy named Sahasra, and he was a surgeon and physician who would do skin grafts, cataract removals, even early plastic surgery on people. So once again, we have someone whose medical knowledge seems so advanced for his time.
Sahasra is also considered to be the first practitioner of Ayurveda, one of the oldest known systems of medicine in the world. According to Hindu legend, Sahasra is said to have received this knowledge from a god known as Dhanvantari.
And Dhanvantari was a high-level god, as we would know them, who provided all the information on this complete healing modality based on an understanding of the physical and subtle aspects of the body. And it was passed through to Indian culture in ancient times and has been preserved and expanded since then.
Though he is most often depicted as having 4 arms and holding medicinal herbs, the god Dhanvantari was also a shapeshifter. According to legend, during his journeys to Earth, he could take on other forms, including that of a bird. Is it possible that both Dhanvantari and the half-man, half-bird Egyptian god of healing, Thoth, were connected in some way? And if so, how?
Whether it's Dhanvantari or Thoth, we learn of these extraterrestrial divinities very often being portrayed as bird-like beings who delivered the knowledge of ancient medicine to Earth. This tells us that our original knowledge of medicine, human anatomy, and how to heal the body came from extraterrestrial sources.
Sahasra was very clear in stating that he learned this knowledge from the gods. Who were the gods? Extraterrestrials.
Every culture will tell you that the first surgeon, that medicine, that healing was a gift of the gods. And that is extraordinarily interesting because it really shows that the benefit of mankind was accomplished through the intervention and the knowledge of the deities.
San Agustin Archaeological Park in Colombia is located along the west bank of the Magdalena River, near a place where it converges with 2 other rivers. It is a location that ancient astronaut theorists believe has a startling and not accidental significance.
They could have set up this site anywhere, but why did they choose San Agustin in Colombia? In India, we have this place called Triveni Sangamam, where 3 great rivers meet, and that site is chosen as a sacred site. We have a lot of temples in this place. Whoever came from India to here chose this place because this is where all these 3 rivers meet. And to find a place like this, you needed to have aerial survey. They were using the Vimanas, which is why they set up this ancient Shiva temple here.
Vimanas? The extraterrestrial flying machines that are described in the Mahabharata, the ancient Hindu text? Is it possible that Hindu explorers made the journey from India to South America and then settled in this region centuries ago? And could they have made that journey a distance of some 12,000 miles by means of a Vimana? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and they believe that the answer to what compelled them to come there can be found by examining one of the ancient stone statues located in San Agustin Archaeological Park.
This was the final statue that I wanted you to look at. Pretty curious, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know what to call this except a spaceman. You can see that he's wearing some kind of a helmet. It looks like he has a visor. He's got two rectangular eyes and a rectangular mouth. He has no nose. He's holding this, what they call a power staff.
But what's really fascinating about that is he's holding that long cylinder, and if you look carefully, it's going even below his feet. He's using that cylinder to go into the ground. Now, this is very interesting because in Hindu culture, there's a god called Swarnakala Bhairava, and he's the god of gold. And he uses a tool called Kila, and he uses it to go into the ground and mine gold.
It could be a special probe that you can put in the ground and detect gold and minerals. So perhaps he is the extraterrestrial that is guiding them. He's a spaceman in a spacesuit with his gold mining tools.
Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, December 9th, 1965. Thousands of people watch as a massive fireball streaks across the night sky and crashes into a nearby forest.
The large object was seen to come down in a wooded area, and witnesses actually claimed that this strange object was the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, looked like what appeared to be a giant acorn.
The phones went off in all of the volunteer fire departments all around. We have a plane crash in the woods at Kecksburg. Well, there was a man named Jim Romansky, and I had a real privilege to talk with him directly in March of 1998, because he was one of only about 10 people who stood around this object in that forest officially as a volunteer fireman, walking around and trying to understand what are we looking at. And he said it was like an acorn, and at the top it was copper colored, and then in the bottom it was a darker color. And there was a band about 4 inches wide, and raised up, not carved in, were symbols that went around a portion of this craft.
Suddenly, the military entered the area, cordoned it off, and the whole thing was essentially hushed up.
The official report from NASA stated that the object was debris from a Russian satellite. Even though witnesses claimed it changed direction several times. For ancient astronaut theorists, this UFO event is particularly intriguing because the object's unusual shape bears a striking resemblance to flying objects described in ancient Indian texts.
The craft itself is an acorn-shaped craft. Immediately, that's reminiscent of what the ancient Indian text described as the Vimana, which were acorn-shaped craft.
In the Mahabharata and in many of the ancient Vedic texts, they speak about the so-called Vimanas. The Vimanas were flying vehicles with which to reach the celestial realm.
In the ancient Sanskrit epics of India, there are highly detailed descriptions of the Vimana, which carried the gods and other important figures through the sky. The acorn-shaped craft were even incorporated at the very top of many Hindu temples.
In Hindu texts, such as the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, the Vimana is primarily a flying ship that God used to travel back and forth between spaces in heaven, from one planet to another planet, from one universe to another universe, and also come to Earth.
When we match up eyewitness accounts of the acorn-shaped craft with the ancient Vimanas, we have to be open to seriously question if these are in fact ancient craft that are now appearing in our modern world.
The Kailasha temple is part of a complex of cave temples that are found at a site in India that is known as Ellora. Here there are over 30 cave temples. All of them are intricately carved out of solid rock into the side of a mountain. It is a whole complex of cloisters and walkways and auxiliary shrines. And it's a complex that is twice the size of the Parthenon in Athens.
It is an absolute magnificent feat of engineering and also logistics. And archaeologists have determined that over a time of 18 years, the builders scooped it out over 400,000 tons of rock. That means they had a workforce and they worked for 12 hours each day. They would still have to remove 5 tons of rock every hour. And even if they worked for 24 hours a day, that would still mean 2.5 tons of rock per hour. Who does that? We can't do that today.
In The Secret Doctrine by Madame H.P. Blavatsky, a mystical compendium authored in 1888, she asserts that the European scholars and archaeologists are all wrong about sites like Ellora. She asserts that it's the Brahmins and the yogis that have a real understanding of the simple fact that beneath sites like Ellora, there are innumerable secret passageways, caverns, corridors, and labyrinths.
And it was said that these caves went to an underground super cave where there were energy machines and other ancient devices from the world before. Some kind of extraterrestrial machines, the ones that had made these tunnels.
Could it be that some of the stories in Hindu mythologies are true, that speak of wondrous machines that were able to carve and cut things just with the push of a button? I think that it's quite possible that at some point extraterrestrials gave technology to our ancestors, that they taught them how to use them, because the extraterrestrials never dirtied their hands, ever. All they did was give instructions. And this is why these holy places began. So the idea is that the Kailasa temple was one of the places where direct physical contact happened with extraterrestrials.
The Republic of India, situated on the subcontinent of South Asia. In the southern portion of the country are the ruins of a vast temple complex known as Vijayanagara. Translated as the City of Victory, this site once was the prosperous capital of the largest and most powerful Hindu kingdom in all of India.
Vijayanagara is said to have been built in the 14th century AD. However, there's a lot of evidence to show that it's a much older city. And in fact, Hindu legends say that the ancient king Rama met with his monkey god friend Hanuman there at a cave at Vijayanagara. And this would put this city back many thousands of years.
This general region of southern India had human occupation perhaps hundreds of thousands of years. While the city of Vijayanagara is certainly the largest settlement that ever existed, there were civilizations that existed there much earlier.
According to scholars, the temples of Vijayanagara were built using ancient geometric and mathematical formulas found only in Vastu Shastra, a traditional Hindu system of design based on aligning art and architecture with the elemental properties of earth, water, air, fire, and space.
Vastu architecture is unique because it creates structures that are supposed to resonate with earth and cosmic energies. When you create a structure, you want the building to be in harmony with the earth. If you think of the Earth as embedded in a space nervous system, and that the solar system is embedded in a space universe, it's all one nervous system. Well, the Earth itself is tied to the rest of the universe by this, and receives and emanates energy by using this nervous system. And these temples illustrate that perfectly. It could be that these spaces were used as a technology to go deep within human consciousness and communicate with the gods.
The origins of Vastu architecture can be traced in ancient India's Sangam literature to a mythic hero called Mamuni Mayan, who lived some 10 to 12,000 years ago. But who, or what, was this mysterious ancient figure? According to Hindu beliefs, Mamuni Mayan is revered as the Visvakarman, the Lord of creation, and the deity who designed and fabricated the divine architecture of the universe. But might this god really have been an extraterrestrial entity, as ancient astronaut theorists believe? Researchers point to clues carved in stone throughout the ancient Vastu temples of Vijayanagara.
Vijayanagara was thought to be a city that connected people to the gods. The gods themselves were said to have lived in this city. Shiva and Rama. Many of the strange statues there are of certain aspects of Vishnu. And he looks like some kind of strange extraterrestrial god. These are statues that still exist today at Vijayanagara.
According to the myths and legends, this is a very holy place. Why? Because Rama, one of the incarnation of Vishnu. Rama is a god. He had been to this place. That's how this place has become very sacred.
Further evidence of the actual nature of the Hindu gods can be found in ancient Hindu scriptures. Epic poems like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, and sacred texts called Vedic literature, contain multiple references to flying objects of various shapes and sizes.
In ancient Vedic literature, they say that they had Vimanas, which are anti-gravity aircraft, and that they flew around on them. And the Vimanas construction is detailed in the Mahabharata and some of the other ancient books that have come to us from that time and stories.
At Vijayanagara, you have the traditional Hindu Vastu architecture. You have, therefore, the stone temples that are conical in shape. So the architecture itself was sort of a copy of the airships or rockets or spaceships that they called Vimanas.
At Vijayanagara, they were using Vastu technology, and Vastu technology has been used to make flying vehicles. The technology is there to create weapons, to probably create an energy that could power a spaceship.
The Vimanas we would call today space shuttle. Flying machines. Now we have different sort of space shuttle. A Russian space shuttle doesn't look like an American space shuttle, and so on. So in ancient India, we have different descriptions of Vimanas, with wings, with all kinds of lights and so on. And out of these Vimanas, so-called gods came.
The Himalayas, northern India. Every summer, hundreds of thousands of Hindu pilgrims brave an arduous journey. They cross many miles of deadly terrain to reach the Amarnath Cave, a place of worship for thousands of years.
12,756 feet above sea level in the Himalayas. is the most revered holy pilgrimage site for all of the people who follow the Hindu faith.
People die because of high altitude sickness. There's a simply fall off the cliff. And still people go there because it is considered to be the most holiest shrine.
According to local lore, this massive cave is where the god Shiva revealed the secrets of immortality and the creation of the universe to his wife Parvati. To honor Shiva, worshippers pay their respects to a sacred relic inside, an ice lingam, which they believe is a physical manifestation of his generative power.
To reveal the secret to transcending the flesh, the secret to true immortality, makes that site of extreme importance to the people in the Hindu faith.
To the Hindu faithful who risk life and limb to reach the Amarnath cave, this story is a real account of an otherworldly being who is at this exact location here on Earth. But could the enlightenment found inside caves be coming from an extraterrestrial source inside the Earth? Some ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest evidence of this might be found in the fabled nirvana known as Shambhala and the sky caves of Mustang in Nepal.
Some say Shambhala is a mythical city that's located somewhere in the mountains in the Himalayas. Its inhabitants are supposed to be fully enlightened beings who have access to a great amount of technology, which comes from the Enlightenment itself.
Buddhism has always seen caves as more or less a conduit to altered states of consciousness, to other civilizations that may exist inside the Earth.
The sky caves in Mustang are interesting because there are 100 or so man-made caves carved into the faces of cliffs and are only accessible by these huge vertical shafts. And inside these caves, we have huge statues of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas.
And Buddhists are not alone in this belief. Hindus also revere caves as places where monks can go to find wisdom.
The sadhu are Indian holy men who basically leave a life of deprivation, self-imposed exile in caves, so that they can enter these altered states of consciousness. They definitely believe that caves are a conduit to communicating with non-human entities.
It's almost as though they're opening a doorway to a spiritual consciousness in which they're able to communicate with these divine beings and hopefully become divine themselves.
Why are there so many accounts of humans having enlightening experiences inside caves? Is there something about caves themselves that facilitate such extraordinary experiences? Could it be that these people are coming into contact with an extraterrestrial presence? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that cosmic knowledge may be stored in the very walls of these caves themselves.
I don't think that this is a coincidence that places of refuge, spiritual refuge, are inside caves. This is where one can contemplate, one can hear one's inner voice without the distractions of the day.
One thing about caves is they're underground, they're unseen. Well, religion is about unseen things. Going into a cave is going into holy ground.
If we're looking for extraterrestrials, ironically, the heavens above might not be the best place to look. We should perhaps even be looking deep below our feet.
In some ways, exploring the underground cavern world of planet Earth is the final frontier.